this is what I call the destruction of talent. That it happens. You were so talented. You were so talented in essentially in everything that you tried, right? So in dance, for instance, you were training with teenagers, and you were still, and then you go straight from rec, and then you jump the travel ladders,
Right.
and then skip it again, and then the same thing in high school, etc. So it's not an issue of talent. It sounds like what happened, and from some other conversations I've had with you, it sounds like the talent is just destroyed along the way. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is this thing that you brought up, and I didn't know this until now, when you said, you went in as a bona fide striker, and they took you and said, we're going to put you as a central defender.
They said no.
They said no. And what did so essentially you didn't know any better. I mean, you really didn't even know the big differences in the roles. And did you have anyone in your household or family to help advocate or explain to you what this transition looks like and the implications of this?
Well, so at the time, no. So it's just me and my mom, and she's not into sports in the slightest. And so like I think she finally started getting into like soccer when I started playing. And so at the time when I got moved from like striker to center back, I mean, I was upset mainly because I was like, oh, I love scoring goals. Like that's the whole point of soccer, scoring goals. And that's what I did. And I was like, I can sprint, I can run fast, like I could do all of it. So like, why are you moving me? And I think at the time my mom kind of thought the same thing, but we were like, whatever. I mean, it's fine. And so when I did get moved back to center back, I played well. Like I did what I was supposed to do. But it wasn't until I reached, I think until I quit club soccer, and was playing in high school, and I started going to the summer camp and stuff like that. And one of the coaches at the summer camp, Mohan and my mom are friends. Like they're both from Caribbean islands. And so while he's kind of been like my mentor throughout the years, and like he's the one who kind of like really helped me get to where I am today when it comes to like just like technical skills, my physical fitness, and like all that type of stuff like that. Like it was him and like all the people who he works with that like helped me get to where I am today. And it wasn't until like he and my mom began speaking just about like my whole kind of like soccer journey, where he made my mom realize like they did me dirty. Like in the moment we were like, okay, whatever, they're switching me, they have somebody else to play the position. But it wasn't until like I got older and my mom realized, we were like, yo, they really messed up. One thing I will say about that though is getting moved to center back made me realize just the value of every position on the field. Mm-hmm. Like I said, when I was younger, I was very goal oriented, and I was goal, 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 goal. But like a person can only score so many goals, and things need to work starting from like the back to the middle to the front in order to make goals happen. And so I think playing center back kind of made me realize that while being striker and scoring goals is important, it's also important to have good defense and good communication. So if anything good did come out of my position switch, I will definitely say it made me understand that there's so much more than simply just scoring goals and running fast and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, what did you find to be, especially in high school, right? So you transition to high school and you're playing JV ball, and you said, it was that your freshman year was great. And how was the transition into your sophomore year, which you describe as, essentially that was the deciding factor in you saying, I'm not going to pursue this
Yeah.
past high school. So what were, you know, what were some of the challenges that made you, come to that decision?
Right.
And did you have any channels or way, and I keep going back to this advocate piece. Um, did you have any advocates, that could help you talk to, the coaching staff or, whoever that needs to be informed about, what's going on and the treatment you're receiving?
Right. As for like the factors that kind of contribute to my sophomore year, that was when like academically, like my curriculum and course load took a big jump. My freshman year was a breeze. I was having fun. I was playing soccer, but then I started taking on like honors classes. And I took 3 honors classes my sophomore year, and all 3 of those classes kicked my butt. Like I was staying up late and, constantly doing homework. And then add that on top of like the whole soccer practice every day for 2 hours, then the commute home, and then the shower, the eat, all of that kind of like really piled up on me. And so I think that definitely just like school contributed to the whole, downfall, I guess, of sophomore year, in addition to like just kind of like the whole soccer, because I think that like definitely messed with like my mental health and when it came to like my self-worth and stuff like that, just because like I knew I was a good soccer player, but when you have a coach who's like, yes, you're great, but then you don't play me, like it was kind of very, what's going on.
Mm.
Um, and so then as for advocates, like my mom's been my biggest advocate, and she has been since the day I was born. And, she made it a point to tell me, she was like, listen, I know you're more than capable of speaking up for yourself and, saying what you think needs to be said. However, there will come a point, if there is a point where what you're saying is not enough, she said she will step in and she will speak to whoever she needs to speak to get the job done. That never happened until my senior year. But all of that like culminated during my sophomore year. And I don't know if it was my sophomore year that made me realize that I'm uninterested in playing soccer, like, period. But I think just with like the politics and the coaching staff making certain decisions based on who people know and who people's parents are and all that type of thing, I think I realized, I was like, whoa. I was like, does it get better than this? I was like, does it get better than this, like at the collegiate level? And so I I was just thinking, I was like, listen, I still really enjoy playing soccer and, I want to continue during high school, but I was like, I'm not so sure about college. Another thing that contributed to me not necessarily wanting to play soccer in college is that, like, from a really young age, like I've held myself to this standard of my grades come first, school comes first. If school's not going right, nothing's going right. Like, I was a straight A student through middle school, and like high school humbled me so great, so much. And like that was just a learning experience for me to realize that I don't have to get all A's to demonstrate my intelligence. I don't have to get all A's to show I'm worthy of doing this or doing that. And so I think that was just like a learning experience in itself, where I kind of had to take a step back, and I was like, whoa, I was like, school's getting hard. And when you do play soccer in college, you're busy all the time. You're working out, you're practicing, like so much is going on. And especially depending on what division school you go to, I mean, 9 times you're working for the school, basically. Like that's your life. And I knew just who I was as a person. I knew if my grades were deteriorating or not where I wanted them to be, because my mom, I just kind of, one day she tried to help me with homework, and I was like, you're doing it wrong. Don't look at it again. And she hasn't looked at my homework since. So nobody put pressure on me to do well in school.
Hold on. Well, we can't just glide over that. Okay, so how did moms take that? First of all, because that's a major humbling experience for a parent. When your child tell you you're doing their schoolwork wrong. So how did she take that real quick?
Well, I remember distinctly, I was in first grade and I was doing math homework and I wanted her to check the answers. And she was like, no, this one is wrong and this is how you do it. And she was teaching me the way that they taught her in school. And I said, that's not what my teacher is teaching me. So I'm going to take this and do it how I want to do it. And then, and she was like, fine, but on one condition, that the answers come back correct. I said, okay. And since then, I've always done my homework by myself. She's never looked at it.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That that's the scene in the movie, like that whole scene, like first grader is telling you doing it wrong. So it's not that her answer was wrong, it's the process, like
Yeah.
okay.
And I'm a big like step by step, like I guess I could still call myself like I'm a big like I don't like to skip steps. Like I'm the person that will read all the instructions even though I know how to do it, just because I don't want to miss something. Where my mom's like, instructions, no, let me just jump in and do it.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from.
I see. Okay. So you said this multiple times, and so I can just skip over it. You said in high school, especially, sophomore year, and I mean, you even brought it up in senior year, the politics around the game. Let's, double tap on that. What are you getting at?
Basically, just a lot of grimy stuff kind of happened my sophomore year. Long story short, there were tryouts and my coach happened to have an incoming freshman daughter. And, everybody's at tryouts and stuff like that. You see the list and yay, coach's daughter made varsity. And everybody was like, yay. And no shade to the girl because that's like she didn't make that decision, it's all the coaches, coaching staff and stuff like that. And but I think that kind of just not only demonstrated to me, but just to like parents and stuff that, that shouldn't be happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so then after that, people were kind of looking at the situation a little funny, like, I mean, you can't really change anything about it. But then when it came to playing time and, it just wasn't looking too hot. And the funny thing about that is it not only happened once, but twice. And I think that's what kind of set everyone over the edge, my mom in particular. We were like, oh, wow. Like, I think that kind of set in stone, like, oh, so this is how we do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple of things. One is that is a difficult situation, even if the kids, because you said it happened a couple of times.
Yeah.
If the kids are skilled and, really good, the optics, can be exactly what your mom and, the other parents experience. And so in that situation, especially at that level where it's getting, the stakes are getting high in high school and varsity,
right,
it would have been a better decision for the coach to remove themselves of that role,
right.
but and then the other part of this is, okay, what you brought up, the politics of the game in the US. And it's actually interesting because you're not, uh, we didn't really even get into this, but your mom, you were born here, correct? Yeah, but your mom is Trini, right? Yeah. So the game. So she may be coming from her understanding of sports or those kind of things is slightly different than football here in the US.
Right.
And it is unnecessarily political. And that's why I thought it was strange coming from you, given
Mhm.
that you're not even, you're not even in the world,
Right.
like the
Right.
football world. And you still have that sense. Um, so yeah, it's extremely um, political. And I think I'm not sure what what the right answer is
Hmm.
to not have it be this, you know, it's just unnecessary. And the byproduct of it really is that the true talent is not given the opportunity to excel.
Right.
And so we don't really get to see or experience true talent. Unlike, for instance, in basketball
Hmm.
or American football or track and field or boxing, those kind of things. Let's use boxing, for instance. If you are a great boxer, great footwork, defense, etc., you're gonna work your way up the ranks. Even if you have a horrible agent, it's just gonna keep working its way.
Right.
Um, Unlike, and a big part of it, I think, for the big reason for what you're experiencing, the political aspect of it is the gatekeepers
Right.
have primarily had a chokehold on the gates
Hmm.
in football, whereas in basketball and all these other sports in particular, uh the gates have been broken down, or
Right.
like different ways, etc. And so I think that's really what it comes down to, is really the gatekeeper. Even in you know a recent episode, we talked about the issues with the national team, like the
Hmm.
US national team, and the fact that we don't really know, we meaning the US public don't really have a great idea on how are folks being selected for the national pool
Hmm.
and pulled into the national teams, etc. um and what one of the things I said was, like, there's a lot of amazing talent
Right.
right up the street. And the example I gave was Langley Park, right?
Hmm.
Like, if you go to Langley Park, there's kids that like how you were, I don't know, 8 and was almost like a master competing with the 15-year-old in dancing.
Hmm.
It's the same thing when it comes to football. There's
Right.
these kids that just know that, like, because all they do is play.
Right.
They don't have other options to, do all these other, all they do is play. They come from a playing background, etc. So I mean, great talent, but rarely discovered.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, the political piece is a real piece. It's something, actually, thanks for bringing it up. We're gonna do a deep dive conversation with some future guests about how to tackle the political nature of
Right.
football in the US. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that you had to experience this in
Right.
such a short career. Uh, I mean, because imagine, like, what would you, when you go to college,
Yeah.
it just starts getting bigger. You go pro, it
Exactly.
starts getting bigger. Like, you get into coach, like, it's, yeah. And so I mean, in high school, like, that's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Um, wow. Okay, what would you say? In your short career, what would you say has been the worst mistake you've made as a footballer?
Worst mistake. I think it was simply just, I don't know if I didn't believe in myself enough, but it was kind of, people would tell me, oh my gosh, you're playing so well. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm just any average, person playing soccer. I guess I just wasn't believing people when they were telling me, that I have potential, and that if I were, apply myself more, if I, did XYZ more, like I could be like great. And I think it was just simply like I said, I was super shy when I was playing soccer. And then like the first time I went to a co-ed soccer camp, I was terrified. Like I kind of sit there, not really talk, let people pass around me, kind of. I never really put myself in like those uncomfortable situations that would have allowed me to grow more than I already have. So I think it was more so just the worst mistake I made was not going outside of my comfort zone.
Mm.
Yeah.
And what would you say has been the most memorable moment or moments in your football career?
I think one of the most memorable things was just seeing my development from when I first started to where I am now,
Mm.
and seeing how much a 6-week soccer camp changed me like completely. Like I remember I went to a sleepaway camp for a week in like Southern Maryland, and I didn't know any of the kids there. They were all friends and knew each other and played for one club, but I only went because my cousin was one of the counselors. And I went and I was terrified. I was like, I don't know any of these kids. And I showed up and I was the outsider basically. And they were a lot better than I was. And I remember we were having like a juggling competition. And it was like whoever gets 10 juggles in a row is going to get a milkshake. We were outside in this field in like the middle of nowhere in Maryland, juggling. And I couldn't get more than 10 juggles.
Wow.
And I was livid, absolutely fuming. I was there juggling, 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 could not get more than 10 in a row, to the point where like I started bawling and I was crying. I was like, I want a milkshake so bad. I don't even know if it was the fact that I don't even know if I cared about the juggling at that point, but I was like, I want a milkshake so bad. And then now, like, I was what, 7 or 8. And then by the time I hit like 10 and I started, playing travel, I could juggle like 50, 60 in a row, no problem. And I was like, wow, that is just super interesting in and of itself. So I think like that's definitely one thing that kind of stuck with me, just to see my development.
Yeah.
And from when I thought like, I know nothing about the game, but like seeing how much my skill level has increased. And then, yeah, I think that's like the biggest thing.
Yeah. Okay. Given what you just said, what would be some advice or words of encouragement to a young Salina? Not,
Right.
exactly, but someone, I don't know, 8, 9, 10. Oh, actually, let's do 10, 11. Someone
Right.
like you were. Um, well, yeah. What would be some words of encouragement or advice to that young person as it pertains to football?
Right. I think I would say like have fun with the game and try not to let, you know, the like have fun with it, be competitive and stuff like that. But it comes to a certain point where like sometimes the competitiveness can like get to you, and it's kind of like you're playing just to win. And I don't think I really took in like the whole experience as a whole. So I'll say like have fun with it, and don't don't be afraid of your potential. I think that's a big one. I think I was scared that I could actually be good and could actually play varsity in high school and could actually play in college. And I was like, that's different. That's new. Like, I feel like that's so scary, where I was like, okay, let me kind of sit back here and just play for fun and not take it too seriously. So I think my one big thing is don't be afraid of your potential.
Mm, that's a big thing, to the point that I need to make a note of, of that one. Don't be afraid of your potential. Um, well, given your decision to not continue playing in college and
Right.
pro, but there's a but actually. I want to say 2 weeks ago. Was
Hmm.
it 2 or 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
One of those kids were balling, getting busy,
Yeah.
and you saw them. And I saw the twinkle in your eye, and I came up to
Yeah.
you. And I was like, you know, like, are you reconsidering? You know, like you see
Yeah,
the joy that the kid is having, you know, just slicing and dicing, and you know, like
right,
enjoying having a blast.
right.
Um, you know, and so you know, there was you were jogging your memory there about like, wow, the great times. I wonder if I
Yeah.
should continue. Um, so I don't know if you're, you know, if you reconsider your decision, but given that you made the decision to not continue playing in, you know, after high school,
Hmm.
what what do you want to have your legacy in the game be? Or what do you want to continue contributing to the game?
Right. That's a good question. Um, honestly don't know because I feel like when it comes to soccer, like the sport as a whole, I still feel like I don't know enough. And that's definitely on my part because I could know enough and I could know more and I could, actively be reading and researching and stuff like that. But sometimes I still lack in like when it comes to like, the understanding and like, the tactical, the technical, all that type of stuff like that, which I also think is like a huge thing when it comes to like young girls playing soccer, because I just feel like sometimes like when you see the different like speed of play of like girls at one age, let's say like 10, in boys at 10, there's a stark difference. The play is a lot faster, the understanding is there. Like I feel like when it comes to coaching younger girls, it's kind of more like just do what you say, just do what I'm saying and then you'll be fine. More than like this is what you're doing and this is why you're doing it so that you can understand, how it all makes sense as a whole.
Mm,
um and I feel like when I was getting coached when I was younger, I definitely missed the understanding part. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I passing wide instead of down the center? Like, so I definitely felt like that was missing a little bit. But like, I just want people, like, I just want, you know, people to see that, like, me, somebody who didn't think they could play soccer at all, was able to play soccer and have fun while doing it and still take it seriously, despite all like the pitfalls and, the soccer politics and all that type of stuff like that. Like, you don't have to play pro, you don't have to play in high school, but whatever path you decide to take, have fun with it and just do you. Like if you're interested in playing in high school, try your very best and work your hardest to play in high school. If you want to play at the collegiate level, do the work that puts you there. But I think a lot of people have this thought or expectation that, if I'm playing soccer in high school, I have to play in college because that's what you're supposed to do. But there's no right or wrong choice to make when it comes to anything in life at all. But like, especially when it comes to soccer, like if you don't want to play in high school, don't play in high school. Don't feel obligated to. If you want to play, play. Um, so I definitely think it's kind of, make the decision that's right for you and try not to let the opinions of others that, could very well be trying to be helpful. Don't let don't let their opinions, deviate what you had set for yourself. Granted, sometimes that's a great thing. Sometimes it's, outside influences that are like, maybe you should really look into this. Like, for example, me starting playing soccer, maybe you should look into this. And then it put me on this soccer journey. But then sometimes, maybe you realize, I'm uninterested in that. So I think it's just a matter of, just knowing what you want or what you're interested in. Nobody ever really truly knows what they want sometimes. Like that's very difficult to know, but just allowing yourself to, roll with the punches. And I think that was definitely a big thing for me. Like I was very rigid and very like, this is the path I'm going to take. I'm not going anywhere else from it. And like change was a huge thing for me. Did not like change at all. But I think it's just being open to the possibilities that there are out there.
I see. You said that you and well, tell me if this is true based on your experiences. So your experience as a, a young lady learning the game, did you feel like it was lacking in understanding the why and gaining the technical mastery
Yeah.
as that's focused on as routines, or compared to, say, you know your male counterparts?
Yeah. I definitely think, for example, because even when I did play striker, like, people have these awesome foot skills. Like even these really young kids have these tremendous foot skills that I've never had. And I feel like when I was playing striker, it was kind of, kick the ball, run, try and juke out this one person, do a quick little step over, and then boom, goal. And so I really missed the constant practicing certain technical skills or like certain tricks to, dribble around people and stuff like that. I definitely feel like I missed that. And then also when I was playing center back and like I had first started, I felt like I was missing they'd say don't dive, don't get beat. But other more than that, like, there's more to just not diving and not getting beat and dropping and recovering and just when in doubt kick the ball out. Like there's so much more to it than that. There's like starting from center back, like that kind of sets up the whole play. People get wide, you pass the ball up, maybe play it to the middle. Like there's so many other moving pieces that I felt like, I think when I was younger, when we'd get coached, it was very position specific
uh,
rather than whole game big picture.
hmm.
But I understand, yes, you need the position specific, but it missed the connection when it came to the big picture of how each individual position interacts and interacts with one another to get the end result of a goal.
Yeah, that is interesting. For some reason, I felt like it was the opposite. I felt like um, there was maybe not so much the opposite, but there was equal um, attention paid to providing young girls, technical training, in particular because of the success of the women's, the national team in the U.S.
Right.
And and because of that, there's a lot of the visibility on the women's game is like, you can't just kick the ball and
Right.
run, there needs to be technical. So I would think that, um, programs and coaching staff would incorporate that into their training.
Right.
But from what you're saying, I need to look more to
Granted,
see.
granted, when I'm saying all of that, I'm saying that as the 11-year old me who just made the team for the first time. I
Yeah.
definitely think with just like the volunteering that I've been doing with like Mohan, like I've seen him coach his girls and stuff like that. I definitely, when it comes to like his teams and like, the weekend futsals and stuff like that that I've been seeing, like that's amazing. That's absolutely tremendous. Like you can see the work that's being put in and how these young girls truly understand what they're doing.
Mhm.
But back then when I was a little tiny tot, it was not there.
Wow. Okay. So sounds like there's some progress being made. I mean, granted, in our universe, so Mohan and Mohan's part of DC 11, and a number of the coaches we know. There's always that, I mean, it's like the baseline focus is always on technical
Yeah.
know-how and being extremely skilled and understanding tactical positioning and all those things. But based on what you just said, I'm gonna pay attention to other programs out there, and other girl programs, and see how things are coming up. But I mean, I hope progress is being made,
Right.
on a national scale where everyone is focusing on, because the days of just kicking the ball and chasing it,
Yeah.
is is done.
Yeah.
That's history. Um, okay, so what, based on your decision, to not continue playing, and what you want young kids to learn by looking at your story, um, what oh now what but is there anything that you feel like would be helpful to, especially
Mhm.
to young girls getting into the game or staying in the game,
Right.
um, you know, high school, etc., dealing with those challenges that are going to come. It's not that, if they're going to come, the challenges are going to come.
Right.
So is there any jewel, anything, any last words you want to give a young Salina?
Again, like I just think the whole like don't be afraid of your potential. I think, just be open to the possibilities of what you could do. And if you do decide that, you want to pursue soccer in like a very competitive manner, just make sure that you keep the end goal in sight. Like I think sometimes like in the moment it's very easy to get bogged down by like, oh my gosh, this is happening and I feel like the whole world is crashing and burning. But just make sure that you still want that end goal, because that, your goals can definitely change and that's okay. But B, I think it's also very important to have a great support system that also wants it for you. So make sure that you surround yourself with people who want what you want for yourself and want to see you succeed and want to see you thrive. And I think that's like a big thing, because without like the support system that I have, and it's not only my mom, but it's like my whole family, they are the ones who come to my soccer games, my soccer practices, basketball, whatever may have you, they're always there. And I think that's definitely helped me pursue more things than I probably wouldn't have done. So yeah, I just think, have a great support system. And, when the days get hard, just remember to have that end goal in sight. So
Nice. So how can folks get in touch with you if they want to help convince you to change your mind, to change your mind, and pursue the game more, or if they just want to tell you that your story resonated with them or their young daughter or young son. um yeah.
the best way to reach me is on Instagram. I'm there. Username is sm.mentor. But yeah, best way to reach me is Instagram. I'm always on my
Well,
phone.
what's your username again?
It's sm.mentor. Um, but yeah, that's me.
Well, it's been a blast. Thanks for your service. Thanks for helping out,
Of
coaching
course.
the young kids
Yes.
at futsal on Sundays. And we'll continue the conversation.
Thank you. I had fun.
Yes, yes.